Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Invin. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys an update on all of the open beta patch notes that we have just received for obviously the launch of the open beta here in New World, and there's a ton of stuff to go through, so it's going to be quite a long video, so buckle down. I'm going to go over all of the relevant things that you need to know because there's basically a lot of changes. One thing to note here as well, if you are looking to get into the beta, the download links have now been available to those that have requested access through Steam, so you can go ahead and start downloading that one just ahead of being able to get onto the servers there as well. Now, if you are playing on EU, another quick thing to note is that they have had some language recommendations for each of the servers as well, or most of the servers in general, so just check that the server you're getting on is relative to your language for yourself and your company, and if not, then just maybe want to switch that up a little bit. We had to do a little switch around because the one we were going to play decided it was going to be a German server recommended, so we thought maybe we'll switch that up a little bit just to get a more broader speaking English server. So that's what we've gone with there. Just a heads up for you guys, any of you that are trying to get on EU servers. So firstly here, as you guys can see on the screen, we've got a post from Luxandra, who is the community manager, and it's just basically a list, and I'm just going to scroll down this list for you guys so that you can see just how much stuff there is to look at here. Okay, we have got a ton of patch notes, so what I'm going to do is just basically run through them all, give them a quick summary as I'm going through and read them off for you guys so you don't have to do it yourselves, and just kind of go over what the implications of that will be to the actual game. So the first thing here we've got is the world experience, and we're looking at expeditions. They've said they've fixed instances of boss encounters failing to begin or restart their encounter in multiple expeditions, fixed an issue where players can get stuck between Chardis in the arena and in the Lazarus instrumentality, fixed an issue where laser walls were not dealing damage in Starstone Barrows, fixed an issue where Archibald would despawn during the fight in Starstone Barrows, fixed an issue where the Vine Bridge disappearing in Garden of Genesis, and fixed an issue where players could be blocked from entering the Priest mini-boss room in the depths. So that's really good. Obviously they're on top of all of those things, and that's going to smooth line it. I didn't see any mention there of them actually making the lasers more visible in Starstone Barrows. That was one of my main things there, but hopefully that's something that's just been fixed along the way. Maybe that was a server-side issue rather than actually the game itself. So fingers crossed that's done as well, and once I get into the game, if I get to that point during the beta, I'll be sure to check that out and let you guys know. But that's really cool. They've been working really hard on that, so that's brilliant. Then generally in the world, we've got smooth the access points to ship flags on the starter beaches, increase the interact range of the ship flags on starter beaches, added additional directional beacons to the FTUE, fixed issues where teleport shrines did not appear on the minimap / compass or have the beacon of light, improved spawn rates throughout the world at locations where bottlenecking players on the same quest / missions. That's really important. And also improved the lighting of the starting beaches at night to be less dark. Really cool. This point right here where they've improved the spawn rates, that's going to be super useful. So some of those clogged up quests, particularly on the main story or early doors when you're on the beach, you've got to kill those boars. They've increased the spawn rates there, which is really nice. And I would assume this does go for items as well. So any of those quests where you're having to wait for the item respawn, they'll have sorted that out as well, which is perfect, because that means, again, the tentacle one, hopefully the respawn is up on that, because that did take a very long time. Now, for the rest of these, those were just kind of like the detailed things. I'm just going to generally summarize some of these points now. So in the quests here, it says they've fixed multiple quests across the world which were causing bottlenecks due to large amounts of players attempting the same objective. Again, similar to the point above, so essentially, hopefully what they've done there is just fine-tune some of those larger areas where a lot of people getting stuck, waiting for the respawns, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we don't have this in-game. Again, once I do get in just under a couple of hours' time now, I will be able to get into the game and check all of these things out for you guys, so I'll let you know how it's getting on. They've also fixed a few other things about AI respawning, and also making sure that the quests are pointing you in the right direction during the task, which is lovely, very much needed. Finally, with text here, they've fixed town mission exploits, fixed different VFX issues in terms of loots, and fixed circumstances where NPCs will be invisible before interacting with them. So basically fine-tuning all of that good stuff there, which is really nice. Now, moving on to the next point here, which is AI and tuning adjustments. Generally, these are really going to be important, because this is how enemies are going to interact and how other things like expeditions are going to work, are all going to be really impacted by this. So I'm going to go through this in quite a bit of depth. Essentially, general AI, they've increased damage scaling of AI above level 50, with gradual scaling from 0% at level 50 up to 25% at level 66. So I haven't done the specific math for that, okay, but generally as the levels go up, they're going to have a lot more damage, which is probably a good thing. Makes the game slightly harder, but you do need to make sure, especially if you were a player that hit level 60 in the closed beta or one of the previews and you've been playing those endgame zones, these things are now going to hit a lot harder. And on top of that, they've also done health scaling for AI above level 30, starting at 0% up to 15% at level 66. So again, Not a great deal, less than 1% per level almost, but you are just going to see that little bit extra health, and to be honest, 0.8% of like 400k HP is pretty good, so just bear that in mind, particularly for open world bosses, as that is the next point here. Open world non-boss elites. Increase the damage to bring them more in line with expedition difficulty enemies. Increase the damage of all non-boss open world elite AI by 12 to 17%, so big damage increase on those guys. And increase the health of elite plus AI, corrupted ogres, corrupted bears, etc. by 60%. So they're going to be very tanky and a lot more damage, so watch out for these. They're not ones to just run in on anymore, and those 5-man groups of those elite areas are going to be even more pivotal and important to make sure that you've actually been able to run through this, because that's a pretty big change, so bear that in mind. Another one here, open world and arena bosses increase the health and damage to bring them more in line with expedition difficulty enemies. And again, they've increased the boss damage by 20% and health by 33%, so a big increase to the boss damage and health there for those open world and arena bosses. So again, bear that massively in mind when you are running into these things. Those 2-3-man groups you were seeing in closed beta and the previews, probably not going to be as viable now until you're way out leveling the zone, so just do bear that in mind. You are going to probably need 4 or 5 people every time you do these elite zones now, so it's pretty good because it means the progression is kind of as it should be, and hopefully in turn the rewards are better from this, but obviously it does mean you can't just go through this quite as quickly, so just take your time with it and just get used to the new mechanics first. Now in expeditions, increase the damage of all expedition AI by 13%, so that's just across the board. So again, you're going to take more damage in there, which is going to probably mean essentially it's going to eliminate those people being able to go in 4-5 levels underneath and maybe limit it to 2 or 3 levels underneath, which kind of makes sense, to be honest, and also means that you're going to have to play it a little bit more tactically. You can't just run through, hope for the best, so I quite like that change personally. Notable bug fixes. Again, this is something that I'm going to go over and just kind of read through the list, because these are all really important things that if you've played any other iterations of the game or watched any other content on, you're going to want to know about it. So players no longer transfer a boss status effect back to the boss through use of a contagious reverse stab perk. Good. That's a good thing. Resolves several leashing bugs that allow players to kill AI from unreachable positions, and resolved a bug preventing dynasty trainees from damaging the players. So pretty much generally we've got a lot of bug fixes. We've got a lot of stuff in arenas, so Spriggan now uses heal behavior more consistently, and a load of other things there. Again, you've got quite a lot of little fixes and little things there done for expeditions, all really, really good and useful things, but I'm not going to read them out individually because they are quite specific to each expedition. There will be a link to these patch notes in the description of the video here, so if you guys want to check them out for yourself, you can do, but essentially they've just streamlined and fixed all of the bugs that were kind of in there, so that's really, really good. Now, the main bulk of this that everybody is going to want to know about, whether you're a PvE, PvP, or generally just playing the game in whatever state possible, is the combat. So main thing here, PvP scaling has been reduced, so there's going to be less PvP scaling. The level difference will matter more in your encounters, meaning that it will take more hits for a lower level player to kill a higher level player, and less hits for a higher level player to kill a lower level player. That's really important because obviously in closed beta particularly, we saw a huge PvP scaling thing where you could take on level 60s at level 30 and be absolutely fine to win that fight. Now that's cool and stuff, but I think this is a way better way of doing it because it does reward the people that have put in the time. And although, yeah, you might say, well, it's not unfair because some people have more time to play, it's just the way it is. You know, if you're in a group of 4 level 30s, you're probably still going to beat that level 60, which is really good, but it just means that it's less one-on-one capability to gank one-on-one players or 1v2 players at a much higher level than you and still come out on top, because that seemed a little broken, so I'm glad they've changed that. They've also changed the attribute threshold bonus, so reduced Constitution 250 threshold bonus damage reduction bonus from 80% down to 60%. So if you are a tank, you are speccing into Constitution for that 80% damage reduction. It's now only 60%, so bear that in mind. That is going to have an impact on gameplay. It's going to have an impact on the healers because they're going to have to heal you more often, and you're going to have to pop food and potions a little bit more regularly, so keep an eye out for that as well. Warhammer here has been changed. They've had a reduced Warhammer hardened steel damage reduction from 20 to 15%, so if you're using the Warhammer, bear that one in mind. There's something pretty much for each of the weapons, so I'm just going to go through them here and detail to you guys what has happened. Sword, we've had freeing Justice passive will now only remove a single debuff and not all debuffs. Fortitude has been replaced with Invigorating Bulwark, and this passive will grant 15 stamina on a hit with the Shield Bash and Shield Rush abilities. Leaping Strike startup frames reduced from 16 to 14, so it's a little bit quicker to start up there. Leaping Strike distance increased from 4 to 6 meters, so you can go a little bit further with it. Counter attack has been modified to be able to stack and obtain a better bonus. It now grants 3% empower for 5 seconds when blocking an attack, and can stack up to 5 times for a maximum of 15% empower bonus. Previously, it would grant a 10% empower for 20 seconds after blocking an attack. So, a little bit better there. It just works more intuitively with the game's combat system there, which I think is a really nice change for those sword and shield tank users, and that's actually a really good thing. Maybe the change there on free and justice will seem a little bit strange at first, but I think again overall in terms of balance, it's a really good thing. But just make sure to pay attention to those changes, particularly when you are tanking, because sword and shield is going to be what you're using. It's going to be your bread and butter, so make sure you look at those changes there in depth and make sure you know what you're dealing with there. Now again, life staff, bread and butter for the healer, the only option right now for healing. So Sacred Protection passive changed to grant a 5% increased incoming healing efficiency to group members. It used to grant additional max HP, so it now makes healing more effective on group members, which is actually really good. It doesn't grant additional maximum HP, so you're not going to give people extra HP to heal up to, but you are going to be able to heal them faster and for more HP per time, which I think is a nice change. It makes sense. Reduce the effectiveness of Orb of Protection Fortify from 15 to 10%, and again, I think this is in an attempt to combat the Paladin style build, so bear that in mind when you are looking at the changes. If you are a healer, maybe it sucks a little bit, but I do think it makes sense in the long run for combining different weapons with this life staff, and that does kind of make sense in how it will tie in with the rest of the game, so really important changes there. Hatchet, we've seen Berserk duration reduced to 12 seconds, and the cooldown has been increased to an 18 seconds, so it was 15 seconds before, healed you 3 times, now we've got a 12 second, and Berserk and Refresh, which is the healing one I'm talking about, now heals for 10% every 4 seconds while Berserk is active, to a max of 30% health, was every 5 seconds for a max of 35% health, so it heals you a little bit less now, and it's a little bit of a less percentage, but it heals you more often a little bit quicker because of the reduction of the time overall of the thing. You're going to get 3 heals in 12 seconds rather than 3 heals in 15, but they do a little bit less, but only slightly less. Now, one thing to bear in mind here, because personally I use the Hatchet a lot, if you do spec a few points into Constitution, this is going to be really good because it's percentage of your max HP, so it's going to give you a decent amount of health back if you do spec a little bit into Constitution there as well, so bear that in mind. Now, the Great Axe here, we've had a reduced effectiveness of Gravity, Well, Unyielding Fortify upgrade from 15% to 10%. Still very, very, very good. Not quite as overpowered as it was, but it's still going to be a really good ability, so not one to sleep on. They've reduced the Great Axe Enduring Strike damage reduction bonus from 20 to 15%. Again, still great. A little bit less good than it was, but it's still going to be very, very viable. And the second hit of Reap no longer has a stagger on it, so that upgraded Reap where you'd swing round doesn't have a stagger on it anymore, which I think is kind of a very good balance thing. It didn't really make sense. It was quite broken that was in the game, so I think overall that's a decent change to the Great Axe, and we've not seen a huge nerf to the damage potential there. We've still got a very good option for all of the other abilities, and even the ones that have been changed are still going to be really, really viable. The bow, we've seen reduced effectiveness of the bow unbreakable focus fortified passive from 20 to 10%. Pretty big nerf on that one. Again, kind of needed though because the bow was very powerful, so it kind of makes sense. Now, they've also changed equip load updates, so the 20% damage increase for light equipped load and the 10% damage increase for medium equipped load should also affect the healing output for a character. Healing is reduced by 20% to account for this. So we want the best healer to be in light gear. They've literally said there, we want the best healer to be in light gear. So any of you healers out there, I know I've got a few guys in my company, particularly that are going to be healing, you're going to be in light gear from now on. So it's going to mean you're far less tanky than you were in the other ones. Obviously, bear in mind that you might be able to put some medium or heavy pieces on with that. But generally, overall, it's going to be a lot less tanky. You are going to have the access to the light roll though, which is nice, but you're not really going to have much option. You could potentially go medium with some heavy armor, but really overall, for being the best healers, like they say there, you're going to be in that light gear. Now, reduce the medium equip load threshold from 15 to 13 and the heavy threshold from 30 to 23. So again, really kind of restricting the fact that we could put 4 heavy pieces and 1 medium to still be in that medium category. It does make a lot more sense. I think this is, again, a good change. It makes sense in the game, right? But just bear in mind that you can't then stack out on heavy pieces and put 1 medium to still have access to that bonus damage. So it really is going to be about sticking more to the categories with maybe 1 chest plate from the above category to get a little bit of extra durability and resistance there. So just bear that in mind. Make sure you fine tune the classes, and again, I'll give you guys a video on this as soon as I can get into the game. Armor has had some changes as well, which normalizes the weight of protection ratios, physical elements balanced within each armor class. Increase the armor armor provided by chest pieces and reduced the amount provided by helmets, slightly increased the armor granted by balance ratios to match that of the total armor provided by physical and elemental ratios, and reduced the weight of the round and kite shields. So that's good, because for sword and shield guys, they were often tipping into the next category of weight just because they had to have the shield there. So I think that's fair. Again, what they've done there basically then is made sure that the chest plate is the most effective piece of protection. Now, whether you want to swap this out for a higher level one, whether we're going to be able to with how much they weigh, we'll have to wait and see, but that could be a good viable option. Again, it could be a helmet, could be a boots, we'll have to wait and see. They've also done some changes here to housing trophies. They've reduced the damage bonus against creature families from 6, 8 and 10 to 3, 4 and 5. So again, pretty much half in all of those makes a little bit more sense, because again, if they are global like we imagine that they are, and we've seen a lot of proof that they are so far, if you're stacking them up in multiple houses, that could still be a very, very good thing. What they've then done is change some of the consumable things here. Again, I'm not going to go over all of these because they are very specific numbers, so if it's something that you're interested in, I would recommend reading through these for yourself and just double checking. But essentially, they've just tweaked quite a lot of the consumable things here. In terms of wars, they have changed the siege turrets. I'm going to go over this because pretty much everyone will be impacted by this again. Increased explosive cannon damage by 30%, which is pretty good. Caps repeater max damage fall off at 90% instead of 100%, so that's good. It's a little bit less effective at damage fall off. Repeated damage fall off now starts at 80 instead of 60 meters, so again, you're going to get a little bit more range off it. Really nice. Siege weapon damage is now being mitigated by armor, which is a bonus because even heavy people were getting absolutely shredded by siege, so making sure you've got those tanks is now going to be even more important. And siege weapons increase damage by 20%. Now, personally, I think that 20% overall damage increase is going to make these very, very effective. So when you are planning war strategies or defense strategies, attacking, whatever it is that you're doing, make sure you focus on these siege weapons, because after that, particularly that last one there, and those last two, in fact, really going to need to watch out for them. They're going to be a nuisance on the battlefield. We've also got lifestyle buff, reduce the effectiveness of arcane blessing lifestyle buff, corrupted enemy absorption from 20 to 5%. So it's a big thing if you are doing corrupted enemy areas or corrupted breaches. You need to watch out for that. And then again, they've done some more stuff with perks, healing potions, endurance potions, all that kind of stuff. They've changed amber gems, so they've reduced the damage scaling obtained from the amber gem, which is the nature one, when putting attributes into focus by 20% to make the healer's secondary weapon a bit less powerful in terms of raw damage output for focus builds. So they're really kind of turning back healers' ability to do damage and really focusing more on them having the efficacy to actually heal the team way better than anything else in the game, but not dealing an awful lot of damage. So again, I don't know what you guys think to that. Some people will really like it, some people will not like it. You're going to get a lot more healing capability but less damage capability, so we'll see how that plans out. I think that's a cool addition, but we'll see how it does go. They've also changed here war things, so they've small deployables, inferno chaps and powder cakes now have a shared deployment limit of 15 per team in wars and invasions, which makes sense because they were getting spammed, so that's really good. And then we also have a ton, and I mean a ton, of bug fixes here, and these are just the notable ones that they've put in. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these because there is a ridiculous amount, and this video will be like an hour long, but just know if you want to read over them, there's a lot here. Some stuff to note here: that the move speed increases, fixed issues where players were having a permanent speed buffing applied. They've fixed that. They've fixed things with the life staff. They've fixed things with the great axe, the bow, encumbrance, heavy attacks, light attacks, swords, fishing, ice pylons, loads of stuff. They've just fixed loads and loads of things. Again, like I said, I'm not going to go over every single thing in this video, but just know there's a lot there, so it's worth reading through if you get the chance to do so. Now, another really important thing, just to wrap up the video here, we've got the progression, economy, and reward system. They've added tier 4 and 5 Azov staves to be unlocked in the main story quest. Tier 4 is required for completion of level 50 corrupted breaches, and tier 5 is required for the completion of level 60 and 65 corrupted breaches. They've reduced the XP for town board projects, so raw material turn-ins reduced by 25%, refined material turn-ins reduced by 30%, crafting armaments turn-ins reduced by 50%, and provisions turn-ins reduced by 50% as well. So a massive nerf to the town board XP there. Bear that in mind, it's not going to be the power level that it was in the closed beta. Hugely reduced town board XP there, so, you know, bear that in mind going forward. XP required at lower levels has been reduced by a small amount, and XP required from level 20 to 30 has been reduced by a medium amount, meaning that you can level up quite a bit quicker in the first instance there for those first 30 levels. Reduce the faction granted permission for PvP in Monarch's Bluff, Cutlass Keys and Morningdale to account for their shorter travel times, so bear that in mind as well. If you're going to be questing there, that has had a change. We've also had a change to the rewards here, which has increased the drop rate of named items from expedition bosses, adjusted the perks of many named weapons in an effort to better distribute perk availability on named weapons while making more of them feel unique and well synergized, normalized the perks of all faction weapons and armor. This change made lower level faction armor give crit damage defense instead of a cooldown reduction, increased the cost of all faction armors and weapons, removed socketed gems from all faction armors, they now have an empty gem slot instead, reduced the gear score of tier 4 faction equipment from 495 to 490, and reduced the tier 5 faction equipment from 550 to 535. So again, overall gear score has been dropped on some of those higher tier ones there, and they have just then kind of basically normalized the entire thing, so everything's kind of standardized across there, which is kind of nice. Now again, there's a whole lot of other bug fixes they've done here. Again, far too many to cover in this video, but if you would like to go and look for them, like I said, the link for these patch notes will be in the description. I'll leave some of them on screen here so you guys can read them in the background if you do want to. There is a ton of stuff that has changed, huge game-changing updates, so hopefully this video, although it's been a very long one, a lot of reading, a lot of stats, a lot of changes, hopefully you have found it informative and useful, because these are all things you're going to need to know going into the open beta and the main game. So fingers crossed this has been a useful video. If you have enjoyed it, please do leave a like on the video down below, as it really does help me out, and this has taken a ton of time to read through and make for you guys. If you are new to the channel, please do make sure to subscribe down below as well. I'm posting new world content every single day, so I'd love to have you here as part of the channel community. If you would like to join my Discord community, the link for that will be in the description and in the comments as always. And if you would like to join the channel as a member, then the membership option is below. Just click the join button and you can see the options we have available there. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Take care and peace.